Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma, Rabbi irzuqni ilma. Allahumma arinal haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ahu wa arinal batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba wa tawakkal ala wa kafa billahi wakila. Ramzan for me is pure magic. Quran for me is not. Let's start from there. And you see the clear gap here, right? Mind the gap. You see the clear gap here. There is great magic for me in the month in which Allah decided to hold these beautiful conversations with us through Quran. That month for me is magic, but the conversations for me feel different. You feel into the gap of this, and which is why I felt that more than anything, during this Ramzan, I wanted to approach Quran from the point of view of what I believe in, the magic of Ramzan that I feel into must be in Quran as well, and it must be there. And it's I who has not had the eye and the heart and the ear to be able to receive the magic of Quran does not mean that it is not there. Which is why La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin has been my best friend in every moment of my life, in every moment, in the darkest and the lightest. Because just because I do not see it, which is a beautiful acknowledgement of the ego mind that we live in, just because I do not perceive it does not mean it is not there. And so I will not fight with Quran believing that there is no magic. I will take responsibility for the fact that I have not been able to receive its magic. And perhaps there is perhaps I feel like there's beautiful magic here and I won't be able to unlock it in Ramzan. And so the only way that I could think of being able to do that is by approaching it as an energetic being. I cannot unlock the magic of Quran because I know what I believe to be magic. I believe this universe to be magic. I believe the unseen to be magic. I believe my existence to be magic. I believe the spoken word to be magic. So then in all of this, how do I equate magic to a book? And then I went, and that's when I started to go back and wanted to feel into if we were to approach it as a story. And if we were not to approach it from the point of view of the first ayah to the last ayah, but the point of view of the first question that we ask ourselves. And it's a loaded question that very few of us have an answer to. Who are we? Where do we come from? What are we made of? The core essentials. I feel like by asking the preliminary questions and looking for the answers in Quran might be able to help us into feeling into the magic of who we are and therefore the magic of Quran. Because when we begin to first ask the question, who are we? There's a story that starts. And the story goes back in the very, very, very beginning. When Allah Ta'ala, as is true in Hadith, has said that I created this universe and I created humankind because I desired to be known. And so there was a deep love with which my ruh, my soul was created. And the story does not begin from my mother's womb. The story begins a very, 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 very long time ago. When Allah Ta'ala, and He speaks of it in Quran, I will be given references, but I don't want to go into the references right now. All of these have been referenced from Quran. When Allah Ta'ala spoke of the insan, and He was speaking to His angels, and He said, I am fashioning this insan from gili mitti, wet clay. And once I fashion him, and there's a beautiful ayah that He speaks of, the way that He speaks to us just to the clay of us. Abhi hum log ruh tak gaye nahi. The beautiful ayah in which He says, and this is verse 95, ayah 95. Sorry, this is Surah 95, verse 4, ayah 4. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We have certainly created man in the best of the molds, in the best of the stature. Right now, he's only speaking of the gili mitti of us. Obviously, he's not speaking of the gili mitti of us only. But in that moment, he's saying that I'm creating the most beautiful asan al-taqweem, asan mold. And asan, as we understand, is not a quantity that can be measured. It's not anything that can be measured. It is one that goes beyond any value of what you deserve, have earned, or could imagine. It's coming from the pure joy of giving from your creator, ihsan, way beyond what you deserve or what you've earned. तो वो जो हमारी कहानी है इंसान होने की और लिमिटेड होने की, वही खत्म हो गई. एहसनुल तकवीम, द हाईएस्ट, एहसान वाले स्टैचर से, एहसान वाले मोल्ड में बनाया है इंसान को. एंड देन अल्लाह ताला, बिकॉज अब उन्होंने हमारे पर एहसान कर रहे हैं, तो इन दैट ब्यूटीफुल वेट क्ले ही सेज कि मैंने मिन रूही, अपनी रूह उनके अंदर डाली, अपना नूर, अ पार्ट ऑफ माय रूह, अ पार्ट ऑफ माय नूर, आई poured down, I gifted to this Ehsanul Taqweem, which is why, and this is how it is Ehsanul Taqweem, because मैंने उसके अंदर अपनी रूह डाली. Who are we? We are गीली मिट्टी जिसमें अल्लाह की रूह है. How do you measure that? Which scale weighs this one in? I don't have that scale. And that's the scale that will be raised on the day of judgment, but I don't have that scale in this dunya. Because who are we is a loaded question. It comes back from, it's linked to who are you actually means where do you come from? Why, where do you come from is asked is, what are you worth? Where do we come from? There's a beautiful hadith which says our souls in this dunya are between two realms of souls. Where do we come from? Our soul in this dunya are in between two realms of souls. एक है आलमे धर, Subhanallah, which is the realm of pre-existence, आलमे धर. और दूसरा है आलमे बरज़ख, which is, of course, the realm that we'll go to before Qiyamah. And so our soul in this dunya exists between two realms of Alam-e Dhar and Alam-e Barzakh. And what's the common theme of Alam-e Dhar and Alam-e Barzakh? And of course, I'll explain, I will talk about, because my God, Alam-e Dhar is the love. Allah, look at the way, Allah Ta'ala says, you want my Quran to speak to you of magic? Let me tell you about the original magic. Let me tell you about the original Alam-e Dhar, Subhanallah, which I will speak of. But what is the common theme between Alam-e Dhar and Alam-e Barzakh? Dono andheri jagahein hain. Both places of darkness. And darkness, of course, are also unseen. But our soul exists simultaneously in the unseen of Alam-e Dhar and in the unseen of Alam-e Barzakh. I do not say unknown. I say unseen. I do not say unfelt. I say unseen. Because our soul exists between these two worlds, between these two realms. And Alam-e Dhar, the way it's being spoken of, is that, as is true for Alam-e Barzakh as well, visualize them as these universes of black stretched universes, lit only by what? Lit only by the light of either our deeds or the light of a blessed decree. So these dark stretches of realms which has specks of light, which are us, which is our souls. And these specks of light, some brighter than these specks of light are us, are our souls in both Alam-e Dhar and Alam-e Barzakh. And the brightness of our light depends on the generational line. And by generational line, I mean the line of the decree of Allah linked to our generational line, or by how we are shifting our own generational lines by making different choices, which are the light of our deeds. So either the light of decree or light of our deeds. These are the only two lights which are lighting up the lit part of our soul. So that means that the eternal part, the actual original part of our soul, the part of which we are inhabiting in this body, that's how magnificently unbelievable we are simultaneously existing in Alam-e Dhar, jahan pe they're glowing like lanterns or like Chinese lanterns or like, I don't know, diye, however you look at it, or fairy lights, or and other along with Alam-e Dhar, they're also in Alam-e Barzakh. Matlab ye hamari hakikat hai. And this obviously blew my mind because I'm like, okay, so my coolness of saying we are multidimensional selves having a human experience, how did I miss this in the original cool kitab, which is Quran? How on earth did I miss this? How on earth did I miss this coolness? And Alam-e Dhar, subhanallah, Allah Ta'ala speaks of when he first created, and that's why I want us to feel into the magic of this religion, the pure, absolute, stunning, magnificent magic of this religion. Allah Ta'ala says, when he started creating the souls, because the souls were created prior to the human creation of the clay, right? So when he started creating the souls, he said, we brought them out like dhar. And dhar are particles of light spread out, specks of light spread out. So which is Alam-e Dhar. So you can visualize it like the distant starry sky. For example, is the feel that you get of Alam-e Dhar. He said, when we were creating the souls, we brought them out. They came out like dhar. Dhar is the particles of light spread out in the valley of Naman, which is Arafah. Nema or Naman, however you pronounce it, which is Arafah. They were spread out. So whatever visual that we have of people doing Hajj or Hajj in Arafah, of a select number of Muslims, like the infinity of all souls who have ever been created since the beginning of time, Muslim, non-Muslim, doesn't matter. Like they're all created, of course, in the fitrah of Allah, so Islam, but like all spread out in Arafat as dhar, as particles of light. And by the way, the meaning of Arafat is to come to know your Lord, to come to know him, to come to renew your covenant to him. Because at the time that Allah Ta'ala created Dhar and they would spread out like light spread out in the valley of Arafat, Allah Ta'ala asked them one question. Am I not your Lord? Al-astu bi rabbikum. Am I not your Lord? To which all of them said, all of us said, yes, you are. So at the time of creation, the recognition of who our Allah, who our Rabb is hardwired. It is in the soul print. The divine blueprint is, am I not your Lord? And it is the first question that was asked in Alam-e Dhar, and the first question that will be asked in Alam-e Barzakh. Man Rabbikum, who is your Lord? Subhanallah. See how there cannot be, and now we begin to connect the dots. How is it somehow that we feel that we sat on a train in Alam-e Dhar, we stopped at the station, we got off, got amnesia completely, then One day we're taken to another train station, which was leaving for Alme Barzakh. We were asked to sit on that train, and we reached Alme Barzakh, and like in between, we have an entire blank period, and we have no idea what happened. This cannot, we were never, ever, we are never disconnected from Alme Dhar. We are never disconnected from Alme Barzakh. Subhanallah, this simultaneous existence of us, this multi-dimensional existence of us in Alam Dhar, in Dunya, in Alam Barzakh, is just the beginning of what has been spoken of, at least in the way that I've received in Hadith and in Quran. Which is why when Allah Ta'ala said, Allah Ta'ala was sitting down, he was fashioning this beautiful mold, and he breathes his beautiful part of his beautiful noor and his knowledge inside us, inside that mold. And he said to the angels, bow. And the angel said, they do not, why are you creating this disconnected from you creature who's going to go and cause strife in the whole land and cause bloodshed? And they don't know anything. And Allah Ta'ala said, do you know more than I do? Because angels need to have special VIP passes to be able to go from one dimension to the other. We have different angelic or different creation for each dimension that Allah Ta'ala has created. Everybody has its own, like every dimension has its own unique set of inhabitants. And so if you want to go from, you need Allah. Angels are absolutely beautifully in Allah's command at all times, right? So if they want to go from one, they need VIP passes, they need tickets and special passes to be able to go from one dimension. This unique, beautiful creature, which is insan, that is being created, the first truly multidimensional creature to whom Allah Ta'ala said, bow. And the angels did not understand because they did not understand the multidimensionality of us. They did not understand that there is a part of us that is forever in Al-Medhar, which is how we are forever, which is how we are forever. And there's a part of us which is in Al-Med Barzakh. And it all makes sense because, this beautiful thing that Hazrat Ali has said, which is that every person is born with their own Jannat and their own Jahannam. They're born with it. And as we travel through the world, we begin to activate one or the other. And so the eternal part of us in Alam Dhar is almost forever, always rooting for us to lean into one. And the Alam Barzakh part is readying itself for our arrival. Who are we? We are multidimensional travelers who have not been left into the world disconnected from the mothership. And subhanallah, at the time of creation of us, and this is how all the chakra systems and everything comes to make, I'm like, what? Again, this is because I asked Allah Ta'ala this one question, right? I said, okay, show me the magic of Quran. And how have I never known of this before? How have I never known about this beautiful? And again, when I'm referring to hadith, I'm not talking about some Quora forum that I went looking in and somebody quoted and then I didn't do reference. I'm looking at Sheikh Umar Suleiman, bhai, like the most beautiful, beautiful imam and scholar of hadith and the most verified. I love him and honor him so much for who he is and for his love for Allah. And he's the one who's talking about these things. I'm like, Allah Ta'ala, blow my mind away already. Do it, be done with it. But Allah Ta'ala is like, nahi, abhi nahi, abhi sabr karo, abhi to aista aista aapko main batata hu ki main kya ho raha hai yahan pe. So in the hadith, Shaykh Umar Suleiman is talking about this, like the time of our creation, when Allah Ta'ala spread us out like that, and then we asked, and this is for in Medane Arafat, and Allah Ta'ala is asking, who is your Lord? And we say, you are, we remember. And then he asks, we create the beautiful mold from clay, and the ruh is asked to step inside that clay. And because the ruh is being asked, because Allah Ta'ala is breathing of himself in that beautiful essence of the queen, beautiful, beautiful mold. And that moment, he pours in his soul, but then there's a concentration of light between our two eyes. Subhanallah. Which is what we generally call third eye. And this concentration of light, Allah puts a light between our two eyes. Of course, again, the concentration is not the same. This is the light of Nur, the light of your goodness, and the concentration is not the same because either is the full potential of it is there to be activated, either through our deeds or by divine decree or both. Divine decree, of course, is something, and again, that's a separate session, the thing between decree and free will. But how the dust and the clay becomes honored is through Allah having breathed his ruh within us on a gili mitti, huh? How deliberately beautiful is this? Is this? The mold which has been created to hold the ruh, a part of the ruh of a part of Noor of Allah, a mold which is Esnil Taqweem has been made from gili mitti, not from fire. But gili mitti, because it is moldable, because it is flexible, because it is porous, because it allows itself to shift, because it allows itself to change, because it allows itself to respond. Gili mitti, sakht bhi nahi hai, sukhi bhi nahi hai, just the right amount, just the right amount. So it can be molded into, it can allow itself to shape into the detail with which Allah Ta'ala, and now I go back, having understood and known all of this, having understood the fact that we have ether within ourselves. And scientifically, by the way, we are made of 5 elements: fire, water, earth, air, ether. So the ether of us, which is Al-Mihdar, all makes sense, doesn't it? The ether of us, which is Al-Mihdar, which is never constant in any one human being, because it is your own expansion, it is your own field of potential. And by the way, Al-Midar is your field of infinite potential and possibilities. This is your quantum field. All ether, all pure, beautiful ether. So now that we know that we're composed of गीली मिट्टी जिसके अंदर एक रूह फूंकी गई हुई है, और हम लोग आलम धर में, a part of us is an alam dhar and the other part is an alam barzakh, and in between is us right now having this conversation, and we are then multidimensional travelers through this world. In all of this, for me to be able to know better of who I am and where I come from, I go back to the first moment of my own creation, which means that I'm sitting in front of, I've just been created by Allah Ta'ala in his hands. That's the moment that I want us all to tune into in this moment. There is a vast expanse of space around ourselves. And there is our creator, our Rab, however you visualize them to be, whether it's a he or however, a light, whatever it is. And in this moment, as dhar, as light, although we do not have eyes, but we've just opened our eyes. And like a child opens its eyes for the first time and cannot truly see their mother because they cannot focus, because the light is too bright. But they can sense her and they can feel her in this moment. In this moment, feel the love with which my Rab is looking at me. In this moment where I've just been created and I've just opened my eyes to my awareness of him. The love with which he's looking at me. And then not just the love with which he's looking at me, the love with which he is now going to sit down and get down to business, because abhi meri ruh ne aankh kholi hai towards my Rab. But now he's going to sit down and get to business. And get to business means, and that's what I'd like to visualize, is that he's going to mold the shape of me, mold the body of me. All the curves that I hate, all the thickness of the nose that I've had to live with my whole life, and the shape of my eyebrows, the color of my skin, the how my body is, how I feel about who I like, what I look like, all of it in that moment, हमारे ऊपर वो लुट के प्यार होके हमें वो shape कर रहे हैं in that particular mold. And this mold, he's saying, Madiha, is for no one but you. Because you may not realize it, but I know exactly what you need. I know exactly what you need. I know exactly who you are. I have just created you. I'm going to give you this beautiful home to live in for a while. And in that moment, I am in love because I've been given the wisdom of receiving what my home, which is my body, will look like. I'm in love with the creator of my body, and I'm in love with my home. I am in ecstasy, like I'm in like vird wala love with my body, and I'm in vird wala love with my home, because mere Allah ne mere liye abhi bhi bana ke mujhe ye diya, a gift. Allah says, a gift. And in that moment, it is that moment that I'm asked to remember, when I'm asked, who are you? Where do you come from? And Allah said this, that the soul is given a gift from Allah. Like the soul, the body is a gift from Allah. And there's great freedom also in understanding and in realizing there's a part of me in Alam Idhar and a part of me in Alam Barzakh. That means I'm never ever disconnected. I'm never left asunder. I'm never just truly floating in the big sea. There is an umbilical cord of me that's connected to Alam Idhar. And it's fully connected, which is why, as we begin to move forward in our journey through this Ramzan, we do not speak of how to nurture the body. We do not speak of how to satisfy our senses. We do not speak of how to give our body the right nutrients. We've spent enough time in this world. We know how to take care of our bodies, hopefully. It's the soul that we're talking about now. We're saying, okay, so a part of my umbilical cord is still connected to Alam Idhar. What is it that umbilical cord is feeding me? And what is it that I now need within myself to feel the heartbeat of Al-Midhar and the presence of Al-Midhar more strongly? What is it that I can feel the presence of Alam Barzakh more strongly? I'm more tuned in to these two parts of me, my own self. Allah ये नहीं कह रही कि दोनों जगहें हैं. आलम धर एक जगह है और आलम बरज़ख एक जगह. आप कह रहे हैं you are existing simultaneously. That means there are parts of us, because we are multidimensional, there are fractal parts of us which are existing in these two realms right now while I'm existing here. What can I do to raise my awareness of these two spaces? Because the magical things that happen when we raise our awareness of Alam Dhar, let's start from there. And before we select the magical thing that happens, so what is the practice going to be? The practice to this Ramzan is going to be, how do I fully tune in towards the end of it, inshallah, to be able to fully tune into Alam Dhar as much as possible, and tune into Alam Barzakh while being a human being, because that is possible for you, because these are not alien places. You are existing there simultaneously. So essentially, we're going to find ways and practices to allow ourselves to tune into those spaces. Now, the magical thing that happens when we tune into Alam Dhar is the field of our soul potential. There is no time, there is no space, and we begin to finally find that sieve, that chani, that separates our pure soul desires from our ego desires. And when we begin to find that chani, that sieve in that alam dhar, because it's a pure, beautiful existence of the soul space in Allah's noor, then we can actually manifest our soul purpose. And then the soul purpose begins to get manifested, because it's a soul purpose. It's perfectly aligned. It is seamless. It's perfect. And it happens in a blink of an eye. It's only when our ego-led desires are, we feel to be pure desires, when we go behind their manifestation and their conscious manifestation, those feel like they're blocked because they are ego-led. And so what happens when we begin to tune into Al-Midhar more? Well, we begin to see the beauty of our own souls more, because we are in the presence of Allah more potently. And we're more connected to the love with which He's created us, which in this moment of our creation is fully open. Feel into it. Fully open, because अभी तक हम लोगों ने अपनी journeys इस तरह से शुरू नहीं किए. So we have not accumulated wounds yet. We have not cut our skins yet, or our soul skins yet. We are fully pure, fully alive. Open our eyes into this moment. In this moment, in this moment, because mostly it's not the love of our creator we were looking for, because that love of our creator is constant and consistent. Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, constant and consistent. It's a love for ourselves that we are missing, because we're not being able to forgive ourselves for the hardest parts of our own lives and for the our strong wounds and for the dark paths that we've walked. When we are not being able to find our own love for ourselves, go back to this moment of creation. And I don't like when we've just in that moment of creation, जब मेरे अल्लाह मेरे सामने बैठे हुए उनके अभी मैंने अपनी रूह की आंख खोली है, तो उस वक्त जब मुझसे वो सवाल पूछेंगे, हु इज योर रब, अलहदा से, अभी बाकी सारे अभी मैदान अरफात में नहीं, अलहदा से हु इज योर रब, वो ऐसे नहीं पूछेंगे कोई लाइक जैसे कोई फॉर्म फिल कर रहा है, कोई बायोडेटा ले रहा है टाइप, नहीं. The way he asked me is like, hi, it's me. I'm your, you speak to you, who's your mama? Who's your mama? Like that. Hi, it's me. And I'm like, oh my God, it's you. And then he said, who's your? I was like, you are, you are, you are, you are. And then I can't stop saying it. I can't stop saying you are, you are, you are, you are, you are, because I can't stop. It's not a promise that we made to him. Who are you? Where do you come from? I come from the realm of that light. I come from his presence. I come bearing testimony to his nur within me. I come bearing testimony of his nur within my two eyes. I come with a part of me still in Alam Dhar. I come with a part of me in Alam Barzakh. How can you limit me to time and space? Alam Barzakh has yet to be. Alam Dhar has happened. I am here. What is time and space for me? I'm existing simultaneously. Do not speak to me like a human being then. And when I speak to myself in the mirror, no matter what your eyes are telling you in that moment, and no matter how much weight that you're carrying within yourself, the reason why we're asked to, even the most beautiful, powerful exercises happen so strongly when we ask to lean in closer into the mirrors and speak to ourselves. We're not looking at our eyes, we're looking within, and there we find the dot noor of us, and it's that noor that we're speaking to within our eyes, which are the windows to our soul. Because otherwise, it's very difficult to have access to the depths of us. Not because it's difficult, but because we are so vast and so infinitely deep. उस moment में अगर हम लोग जब वापस जाते, that moment is forever still there. Because remember, there is no time, there is no space. So our moment of creation, where the first instant in which we've opened our eyes and Allah Ta'ala says, who's your Rabb? Like that. I'm like, oh my God, it's you, it's you, it's you. And I can't stop. That moment is still there. It's right here. It's right here. And when I am more tuned into Alame Dhar then, into the moment of my own creation of the soul, my Alame Barzakh feels already at peace. Because then the image is that of a child, jo ek uska, the teacher or the guide, they're walking, whether it's the father figure or the mother figure or a teacher or a guide or a tree, doesn't matter, they're walking. उन्होंने लंबा सा rope पहना हुआ है, एक छोटी सी बच्ची rope के ना किसी fold के अंदर अपने आप को उसने छुपाया हुआ है और उनके साथ टिक 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 करके चल रही है. Because मैंने कहा तो है आप है मेरे रब, तो चलें, let's go then. So that's the confidence, that's the peace that Alme Barzakh feels. Okay, she's coming to me walking, or he's coming to me walking within the robes of their Rab. So wo bhi sukoon. So my part in Barzakh is already in sukoon. And when parts of my soul are at peace, how do you feel? I'm going to feel as a human being. Quite okay, actually. Quite okay. And I'd like to spend more time in that moment. Where he's like, who is your Rab? When ऐसे तो देखना ही है ना कभी. Allah, am I not your Rab? Of course you are. What do you mean? What do you mean? And the most beautiful one at that. Like that is how we begin to approach Quran. And so when we say Quran, Ramzan, the magic portal, Quran cannot just be a book. It's made for a multi-dimensional soul, जिसका एक हिस्सा आलम धर में रह रहा है. अगर हम लोग खाली एक आलम धर की सोल यार, which is right potent with the नूर, इतनी करीब है वल्लाह के नूर के साथ, इतनी करीब, इतनी करीब, इतनी करीब आलम धर में है वो. उसको क्या सुकून मिलेगा एक दो वर्ड्स के साथ, अगर ये खाली वर्ड्स होते कुरान के. ये फ्रीक्वेंसीज हैं, मैजिकल मैजिकल पावरफुल फ्रीक्वेंसीज हैं ये. And they're small little light codes which are unlocking portals into Al-Medhar, into specific pathways of Al-Medhar. It's not like the cure of the ill through Quran is illness of the heart, the mind, and the soul, everything. That's the cure that lies within the high frequency potent portal that is Quran. And it's not made for insan in the way that we're used to identifying with ourselves. It's not. It's made for multidimensional beings of light, part of which are existing in Alam Dhar, some are in, and a part of which are in Alam Barzakh, and in between, we're here for a little while, coming together. That's all. That's all. Okay, so this was pretty short. I'm going to close this off unless somebody wants to have a conversation. I'm going to just, let me just put the